Urban Meyer to Florida? What would that mean for the Florida State Seminoles?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles with me. Today's bonus episode on a college football Saturday is one that's a little bit different. Urban Meyer is rumored to be looking to become the next head coach for the Florida Gators. Of course, he was there from 2005 through 2010, winning the title in 2006 and 8. Tim Tebow era. Is this real? From what I've been told, yes. And it also has some interesting sidebars for me, somebody that knew him during his rise. And I have some things that I want to share about him and how it would impact not only college football, but the Florida State Seminoles versus Florida Gators football rivalry. So first off, knew him back from his time in Notre Dame, Utah, Bowling Green, all that. And wherever he's been, through Florida, etc., there's been a consistent theme. Whether I was talking to him, whether I read something, whether I heard something, it was always the same. You would not outwork him in recruiting, and you would not outwork him in terms of what he did with his staff and his expectations for his staff, recruiting or otherwise. He knew that the gauntlet to the title went through the recruiting ranks. He made no bones about it, but he also knew that he had to have a definitive plan and he wanted to be innovative to get there. So let's talk about recruiting first. Secondly, let's talk a little bit about what he would do, in my opinion. And I'm talking about like offensively, more of an offensive guy. And then finally, like the Florida State-Florida rivalry. So recruiting, point blank, out of all the coaches that I've ever communicated with at schools across the country, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State, wherever I've come across somebody, Iowa, it doesn't make any difference. Number one, he's revered for his effort. And number two, I know it firsthand, he is the best one-on-one recruiter I have ever seen. And there is not a second place. So no team would benefit in a sense of Urban being back in college football, Florida State included, because you're going to lose some battles because of him. As I often say on this show, most often, recruits pick a coach, not a school. I know old school diehards of any program hate that. It does not matter. Kids pick the coach, not the school. Now, if you add the brand like Florida State or Florida to an elite name, obviously that accentuates it. And in this case, Florida, obviously a great job and one in the SEC, not very difficult to see him having a top 5 class out of the gate. Would that be something that is automatically going to destroy Florida State? No, absolutely not. There'll be idiots out there on social media that will tell you that. That is false. Again, I knew the man when he was in his prime. This is not somebody that's going to give up in recruiting in any way. That's just his passion and his drive. He's always loved recruiting, no doubt about it. But at the same time, recruiting has changed a lot. Just in the last 3 to 5 years, we don't know how he would adapt to the portal. We don't know how he would adapt to the ability to take transfers in the sense of December. Remember, more than likely, the portal is going to be reduced to just the December window. It's not up and done with yet with the debate and the final vote. NCAA is voting on that in October, but the odds are in the spring, that window is going to be eliminated. So there are different kinds of decisions that Urban and every other coach would have to make. That's fair enough. But at the same time, he's a very intelligent man. I imagine he would adapt rather quickly. He would probably revamp that roster quickly and tell his guys, if you don't want to be here, there it is. He might revamp the roster by getting rid of guys. I saw him do that at Bowling Green. I had a conversation with him during his first spring before he ever coached a game about coming off the field. This guy's going to be gone. This guy needs to pick it up. This guy's an NFL player. It was a little more candid than that, but you get the point. He lost like 20, 25 players, something like that. Time he got hired in like the end of his first season. But they were decent first year. Year two, they were immensely better. He wanted to change his roster in terms of culture and making sure he had guys that he wanted. So the old saying, get the right guys on the bus, get the wrong guys off the bus, and then get the right guys that are on the bus in the right seats. It's the fine tuning in year 2 and year 3 that you would see. No doubt he would do that. So I think Florida State From a recruiting perspective, they'd have two options. They could do the status quo of what they're doing right now, which is pretty good recruiting. They've got a chance at a great class, but they started 0-2. They can't lose to Memphis, or the Florida thing would be a disaster. Urban goes to Florida and FSU is 6-6 or worse. This could go sideways. Not even going to get into that because that's self-explanatory. But there's also the other side. Either you want to pick it up as a staff because they have to anyway, or you're going to get run over. Because I guarantee you, Urban would hire guys to come work on his staff that can recruit, or he'll get rid of them too. He does not mince words. They would be gone. And it's not hard to recruit to Florida, nor is it hard to get good assistants to go there. It's an SEC power program. So I think it would be fascinating to see how Florida State staff would react, because every kid that Florida State has committed, along with several other key guys that are uncommitted, Urban would immediately go after, for the most part. There might be a couple that he doesn't want, but by and large, immediately he would seek them out, and he will do so personally. As a head coach, he is the best one-on-one recruiter I have ever seen, based on conversations with recruits, other coaches, high school coaches, etc. Period. So what makes the difference with that? It's psychology. He knows how to adapt to every person and every circumstance. That's the short end of it. Florida would still have to battle what they've done recently, though. That's the other thing with this, with recruiting. Because Ward only knows they stink right now. I mean, the game against Miami, 41-17. I mean, you guys got destroyed and didn't even look that close. I mean, Miami could have scored 50-something pretty easy. They called off the starters fairly early. So he would have a lot to try to sell in terms of himself and who he brings onto his staff. I don't know. For the record, I have heard that he wants the job. He is pursuing the job, and from somebody I trust. That means you need to take this podcast seriously. Like, this isn't just throwing it out there or whatever. But when I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about something else that he brings. That's stability, and then the Florida State and Florida rivalry, because I think it would be incredible. It might be the best rivalry almost immediately in college football if Florida State does what they need to do as well. That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you want to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Urban Meyer would most definitely give Florida stability from a perception standpoint. That's very important. In college football, perception is really reality. Boosters being happy and donating to Bull Gator Club, etc. Having TV around him, having exposure through the major networks, CBS, Fox, ESPN, whatever it may be. They'd all want to do interviews with him. Local media in Orlando, Tampa. That all helps recruiting. That helps kids want to stay on your roster. It will bring in coaches. But that also is something very interesting with Florida State, because if that doesn't motivate Florida State, then why would you want to be in Tallahassee? You should want this kind of rivalry, right? If you don't, why'd you get into coaching? I would relish it if I was a Florida State assistant. That's just me. And I would hope they take that same approach. We'll talk about that momentarily, but back to the point of stability. I think you could see one of the better transfer portal classes pretty quickly. If that's the route Urban wants to go, I'm not sure how he would do that. He's got a quarterback that fits the system. Obviously, DJ Lagway would be a tremendous fit. And he also has a base group of skill guys that can really run, that really kind of fits him as well at the wide receiver position. Now, he may need different pieces, maybe a tight end, whatever it is, and definitely need to improve up front on offense. Defense has been a sieve. They're going to have to change a lot of things there, because even though they got some really highly talented guys, I think that's more coaching and development, and UF has failed. They have failed miserably. That would be probably his biggest challenge. Now to the Florida State part. I think the rivalry from the moment he took the job to the point where he had the opportunity to coach the game, if it happened this year, like as an interim part, it would be a bigger deal this year in Tallahassee. But if it's next year, or even if he does coach the interim game, because Napier's going to get fired. Let's not kid ourselves. Billy Napier, fired. Okay, you clear on this? He's going to get fired. I have no bones about it. He is terrible. He's going to get fired. There's no doubt in my mind also that first year leading up, all the speculation, how is Norvell going to rebound? Because obviously this season's not where it needs to be. It will change how Florida State takes on the portal. It will change how Florida State takes on its offseason conditioning. It will change what Florida State possibly even does on their staff. All this stuff is fascinating to me. Every week I would do a podcast and something on Florida State, even if it's minor, maybe a segment or something, because there will be news. A recruiting battle, a coach that could have went to one school or the other and chooses one or the other. It could be something in regards to a comment that's made. It could be something in relation to donations because Florida fans are excited. They're getting a lot of money. There's a million different things. The rivalry would be cool again. Let's be honest. There's been a lot of really highs and lows for each program since towards the end of Bobby's reign. It's just been a roller coaster for Florida State. And UF's had some of that too, especially here lately. Since the 2020 season, Florida hasn't exactly been dominant. Let's be kind here. They've completely wasted what could be a great program, and it's on them. The administration, boosters, Dan Mullen, ironically, one of the main guys for Urban Meyer, being one of those guys. But here's the other part. How about the game itself? If Florida State wants to make a statement, if they would win the first year like Urban would be there, and really resurrect Florida State, get them back in track with the thinking of, okay, they're a real program. This wasn't just a 2022, 2023 short run. If you win in the Swamp Urban's first year, because this year it's going to be in Tallahassee at Doak, if you won next year in the Swamp, that would be huge. I don't know. Again, I have no idea what kind of roster Urban would have because I don't know how he's going to attack the portal. It's a conversation I've never had with him, and I don't know if anybody ever really has. It's something he'd have to figure out as he evaluates the roster and everything else. But I think it would be great for college football, great for the state of Florida, Florida State rivalry, everything. I think it would be absolutely awesome. With that, please like this podcast. Please subscribe. Please hit that notification bell, rate and review, and comment. If you have anything else you'd like me to talk about as a subject matter, whether it's a Florida State position group, an upcoming game, something you want to know about, old school stat or a player, anything from the past, fire away. Happy to talk about it. And again, thank you very much for checking out this show each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles football with me. I will see you on Sunday.